Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Josh Scorcher again. It's just, uploaded. Today we got top 10 gaming mentors. So basically, think of the sages, or at least the ones that, give our protagonists, direction. Think Peter Parker with Miles Morales and Spider-Man. There's a few more, I'm just trying to remember. I think you could think Gramps from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That's there. What else? So yeah, expect a lot of mentors here, So let's take a look. Let's take a look at these mentors and see who got there. Here are the best. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's go.
One of the most important characters you can find in any story is the mentor. Regardless of what shape they take, their purpose is clear. Teach the protag. Naturally, they are very common characters in video games. As for what makes a good one, again, there are many factors. To get the most obvious one out of the way first, how effective of a teacher are they, both towards the hero and towards the player? How well do they help the characters grow? Are they a mentor to multiple characters? Also, big bonus points if the protege inherits character traits and or becomes a mentor themselves.
Makes sense. Yeah, expect Clementine's stuff here soon. He's first. Oh, there we go. It's like, did he do it out of order or something?
Knowing just how crazy the sequels got,
yeah.
It could be weird going back to the very first Saints Row. Rather than the over-the-top insanity and larger-than-life plot of 4, it's more of a traditional turf war story. Instead of the crime lord with an army's worth of resources at your disposal, you're just a guy caught in a 4-way gang power struggle. Being new to the whole armed robbery thing, the leader of the 3rd Street Saints, Julius Little, takes you under his wing. Despite being, a gang leader, Julius is a surprisingly benevolent and nice guy. Heck, the whole reason he established the Saints was to end violence in Stillwater. He serves as the main mentor figure to your characters, showing them the ropes and really making them feel welcome. Oh, and he's played by Keith David, so that's a point in his favor.
Welcome to hell,
motherfucker!
However, after you successfully defeat the other gangs, Julius pulls the ultimate betrayal. Now that the Saints are the most powerful gang, he sets you up to die in a boat explosion to prevent you from becoming any stronger. The explosion didn't take, and you're left comatose for several months. Once you awake, you set yourself out to become the new leader of the Saints and the most powerful gang once again. Oh, and you can find audio logs showing that he had the option to talk you out of the whole gang thing, but chose to take the nuclear option. Yikes. Julius is a dark reflection of a mentor. He betrayed you after saving your life, indirectly taught you that violence is the answer, and led you to become far worse than he ever was. You still learned stuff from him and changed as a result, in the worst possible way. Julius saw that he was creating a monster in the shape of the very thing he was trying to destroy, and tried to take responsibility in a unique way. Julius is a great mentor for teaching important life lessons about surviving in the streets, but was incredibly irresponsible with what he was teaching. By teaching you the flaws of the rival gangs, he indirectly taught you what they could have done better, not given any thought as to how his short-sighted goals could affect your development. And by the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. You were on a trajectory to becoming a ruthless gang lord. This time, there wouldn't be anyone strong enough to stop you. And that's why he's only number 10. He never really intended to teach you the lessons he did, and it ended up biting him in the butt big time. Every sequel to this game serves as both a big I told you so from Julius and a testament to his negligence as a mentor. It's ironic, really, considering how the reboot tried to recapture that wackiness of the originals and strayed too far, resulting in the series' downfall. Julius' story nowadays feels like an omen of things to come.
Yeah, that does sound about right. Too much of wacky. Number 9.
Final Fantasy X is arguably one of the most emotionally driven chapters in a franchise purely because of the characters involved. The party featured is more or less a found family, and Auron's the father they all desperately needed especially Tidus. On the surface, Auron is 100% pure awesome. The strong, silent aura while hauling an enormous blade across his back. While not the talkative type, he has a deadpan sense of humor and generally acts as the voice of reason to the party. He
Makes
helps
sense.
aid them on their quest to wipe out the monstrous Sin, and even teaches Tidus how to fight. But little by little, we learned that Auron's involvement with all this runs much deeper than we anticipated. Years ago, Auron was actually a celebrated warrior. He was close friends with Yuna's father, Lord Braska, and Tidus'
Braska?
father, Jecht.
Jecht?
They seemingly defeated Sin years ago, similar to how our current party plans to achieve it, but Braska never made it back alive, and Jecht becomes the next core for Sin. Turns out the final Aeon they've been trying to summon on this pilgrimage just ends up becoming Sin, meaning Jecht and Braska's sacrifices were for nothing. In a fit of rage, Auron confronted Yunaliska, but
Nope.
Were you killed? Sadly, yes. But I lived.
apparently not even death can stop this badass samurai man. With his strong will, Auron became unsent. A ghost that clings to his corporeal form somehow made it to Xanarkand and took care of Tidus from afar, just like his friend requested. From there, he orchestrated a plan to bring Tidus to Spira and find a way to kill Sin that was permanent. In the end, his efforts are rewarded and he can rest easy knowing he helped take out the evil that took his dearest friends from him. It's amazing how incredibly patient Auron is when enacting this plan. For years, he steadily guided Tidus into being a warrior for when he would eventually return to Spira, even using Tidus' tense feelings toward his own father to motivate him to kill Sin. Underhanded? Maybe, but come on, look at it from Auron's point of view. Auron was born and raised in Spira, believing the teachings of Yevon and that one day Sin would eventually be gone forever. All he had to do was lead his friend to a place where he could summon a monster to kill it, only to find out that the big monster they need to fight Sin is just another Sin. And he had to sacrifice his friends to make that happen. This must have been a huge wake-up call to what's really happening. The church was pacifying and or outright brainwashing people into complacency and just accepting this spiral of death, just because their leaders were too afraid of change. And anyone who thought differently was shunned and labeled heretics. Or worse, this had to change. And Tidus' estranged relationship with his dad, along with the will of the fates, was too great an opportunity to pass up. Sure, Auron may be a loose cannon at times when it comes to fighting Sin, but that's only because he wants everyone to stop believing Yevon's lies and think for themselves.
Now, this is it. Now's the time to choose. Die and be free of pain, or live and fight your sorrow. Now is the time to shape your stories. Your fate is in your hands.
His backstory mirrors Tidus' own journey. He's effectively the mentor to his younger self, so it's a satisfying conclusion to both their heartaches. And to top it all, he comes up with one of the best
Yeah,
burns
this is
in Kingdom
my
Hearts 2.
story.
Did you forget who you're talking to? I am the Lord of the Dead.
No wonder.
No wonder no one wants to die.
Thanks, Orange.
Come on,
Yes,
he deserves
Shinso.
a place on the list just for that.
Amen. I mean, trash talking Hades. Goddamn.
Oh,
Blaze
Blaze
Blue.
Blue. I
So, Jubei?
really don't talk about you enough. Or maybe that's a good thing. Trying to make sense of you is like trying to explain an iPad to the Amish. Well, when it comes to Mentor, things are pretty simple, I think. So, Jubei, the cat beastkin who's unrivaled among his peers, one of the 6 heroes of the Dark War. He fought against the Black Beast and the hell it raised, becoming heralded as one of the greatest warriors of all time in the process. He's Puss in Boots, but older and into bestiality.
Ew.
Wait, what? It isn't surprising that some would seek his guidance. Too bad his students include a foul-mouthed protagonist, the world's most violent brother complex, and an anime girl with multiple personality syndrome. Bit more selective, dude. Starting with Ragnar, he had a lot of pieces to pick up. Ragnar just had his arm cut off, his brother
Thanks, Jin.
possessed, and his sister kidnapped. Acting as a father figure to a child who lost everything isn't easy. Ragnar did open up to him and called him master, learning how to fight, cook, and how to live in their world. Jin was a more straightforward case. After the events of Continuum Shift, Jin entered Jubei's tutelage to learn more about the world and find a way to save his friend Tsubaki. Jubei compares the brothers as Ragna being way more difficult to teach and Jin picking things up quickly. He was always a prodigy. Platinum is weirder, as not much is known on their tutelage. They do hold Jubei in high regard and will get mad at anyone who tries to get close to them. They would even go after Terumi to gain his favor. So I guess there's some positive things you can imply about that. Though I will admit, Jubei isn't the best father to his own daughter, Kokonoe. Never mind the fact that she has to live as half human, half beast skin in a world where there's prejudice for it. But she spent most of her life without a mother either. Not surprising she turned out the way she did. There's also this village of cat girls made from his DNA that he frequently checks in on, but don't worry about that. We don't see too much firsthand Jubei's actions as a mentor, but we can see the results in Ragna and Jin. By the end of the series, Jubei is still living, seeing Platinum off to a new caretaker and hoping to make amends with his daughter. Let's hope he spends his 9 lives well. God, so close! Got this far without a cat pun.
Really? I mean, hey, it was at the end, so had to be done. Had to be done. And in a way, Jubei does teach him well, you know? And when I saw Blaze Blue, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely Jubei. Come on. I don't even play the game. I remember the death battle between Ragna and Soul, and yep, definitely the Taki Cat. Poor Kokone, though. Kotokonoa. Jeez, mouthfuls. Anyway, next. Number 7.
Alright, so we had a gang leader and 2 mystical surrogate father figures.
Yep.
One of which is a cat. Alright, let's just do something a bit more normal.
Military?
How about a spirit medium lawyer?
Oh,
Okay. Now you have my attention.
Right, Mia Fey.
Oh, what a shock. I'm doing an Ace Attorney segment and not talking about Dual Destinies. While
For once.
modern players might be used to Phoenix mentoring his proteges Apollo and Athena, nothing is better than seeing a mentor to a mentor. And that's where we get Mia Fey. Mia starts out as your boss in the very first Ace Attorney case back when Phoenix was a fledgling and the ships between him and Miles Edgeworth were non-existent. Considering this is Ace Attorney, Mia had to keep a calm head when dealing with Phoenix's nervousness, the witness's craziness, and whatever the prosecutor was doing.
Mostly
Good first
pain.
impression. No, great one even. Too bad in the very next case she dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, she dies faster than the Fire Emblem dad. Or
Bro.
mom. That would be it usually. Mentor is dead, so the main character needs to rise up without them. Well, if Phoenix had more than one case under his belt, then we'd be fine. But Mia's sister Maya gets accused of murder, and you're her only hope. Turns out, though, that Maya is a spirit medium and can summon her sister whenever she's needed. And guess what?
Mia can do it
She's
too.
needed. Throughout the trilogy, Maya, and sometimes her cousin Pearl, will channel Mia whenever Phoenix needs help. At first, it's to help catch her killer, but in the next 2 games, it could be as serious as dealing with an assassin
To
or
kill
as
her.
innocent as flirting with an old man to get info. Mia
Okay.
is always there to lend Phoenix a hand when needed, though it was pretty rough in places. There are times that Phoenix was doing really well, but still gets cornered, allowing Mia to pull a Hail Mary and give him the edge to win. Not surprising, since before her death, she was a very capable lawyer. No, she was one of the best in the country and considered the next Gregory Edgeworth, whose ideals are the bedrock for most of the lawyers in the series. By the end of the 3rd game, Phoenix is forced to go through one of his most personal cross-examinations and has to do it by himself. Remembering everything Mia taught him and having her spirit watch over him gave him the skill to put down the final culprit of the original trilogy. After the 3rd game, Mia isn't seen anymore because
I think they moved on.
she isn't needed anymore. Phoenix is now a capable lawyer, able to not only hold his own, but
You
mentor
bet
his
you're
own proteges. She can rest in peace with her mother and beloved, watching Phoenix as he fights and bluffs to defend his client. You know, there was a point in the trilogy where Phoenix almost solved the case without Mia's intervention. If it wasn't for the obstacle of a hard old salt that liked his maids mature.
True. Well, to be fair, I think with the 5th in the first game, once you get to the 4th one, Miles was actually, or sorry, Phoenix was able to help out, though. I think this was because Maya was still new to the spirit channeling business. At least that's what I remember, but I don't think she even showed up that day. Which, considering DL6 and how much it had effect on her and the mom, you'd think she would have showed up, but I guess not. So you can give Phoenix a little help. Anyway, number 6.
I If there's a game series that practically drives the dying teacher trope so down to the ground it punches through the earth, it's Fire Emblem.
Yep.
When the mentors don't die or get crippled as a call to adventure for the protagonist, there's strong early game units with mediocre growths that you'll replace later on just to not seem like a huge normie. So how about we look at a mentor that actually guides the hero substantially without having to die for some by-the-book tragedy? Say hello to Myson. As a royal knight of Zofia, Myson upholds the responsibility of training Alm into a capable soldier and protecting Celica from the threat of Valentia's corrupt ministers. To put into perspective on how seriously he takes his duty, he instructed Alm and friends to fend off Slade's army while they were still practically in diapers. And succeeded! Though Alm is the one he primarily focused on training, his efforts as a mentor did carry over to the rest of Alm's friends. It's with Alm's support after the fact that they joined the Deliverance and helped liberate Zofia and Regal. It's revealed later in the story that Myson was actually a friend of Emperor Rudolph, and that Alm was the Emperor's son whom Myson promised to care for until the day he was ready to fulfill his destiny. Given Myson's disposition, you'd think he'd be fighting alongside you the whole way as a handicap unit, but surprisingly, he doesn't. He remains in hiding as a test of Alm's ability to fight without his guidance. He comes back at the end of the Zofia War to assess Alm and advise him for what's to come, but it's not until after the conquest of Regal when he truly joins Alm's army. So instead of a Jagan unit, he is more of a Goto unit. Granted, Myson not always being there for Alm might seem like a minus, but that really isn't a bad thing. Some teachers do show a lot of faith in their students, to the point where they believe in the students' ability to carry themselves through hardship. Myson gave Alm a sturdy foundation to stand on so that he could unleash his potential on his own. It's a little harsh, but in a land that desperately needs to pull the status quo by the roots and bring together people of various strengths and potential, there is justice behind it. I mean, do you think President Classes for Non would have showed his true colors if Myson had joined the team? I don't think so. But okay, would it have been nice to see more of Myson in general? Sure. I mean, that's what the support conversations are for, to be fair. But what we still got here is respectable. And for this series, fairly unique.
Bro, I don't play Fire Emblem. I definitely appreciate it. Number 5?
It goes without saying that
there we go,
Insomniac's
Peter Parker.
Spider-Man series is pretty dang awesome. Breathing new life into the wall crawler's world and doing something that Marvel is apparently too afraid to do, let Peter Parker grow up. Halfway through the first game, this is further explored by having Spidey act as a mentor of sorts for Miles Morales. He gives him a quick lesson on how to defend himself, which ends up paying off in a major way later on when Miles has to sneak his way past Rhino. And
Scorpion.
Later...
No.
Whoopa! Ta-da!
It's pretty weird, right?
Well, we all know how these Spidey origin stories go at this point. And thus we come to Spider-Man 1.5, I guess?
Look, y'all, I'm black now!
Miles Morales, while the titular new kid, really steps into the role as the secondary web-slinger. In the opening, we see how the duo's dynamic works before Peter leaves for the rest of the game, but not before trusting Miles as New York's protector. Side note, the Spider Oath is kind of wholesome, but when you stop and think about it, was Miles really ready to be New York's only Spidey for a few weeks? Well, Peter seemed to think so, but let his record show.
Nice kid. Bad judge of character.
Okay, maybe I'm being too harsh. I mean, Peter's been shown to be a great judge of character. Just look at him and Dr.
Oh. Was that an his fault?
All joking aside, he didn't completely leave Miles high and dry. He took the time to set up training simulators all throughout the city, which are mostly rebranded versions of the Taskmaster and Screwball side missions from the first game. And we all remember how fun those were. Except this time, Peter actually makes the side missions fun. He encourages Miles throughout the challenges, and it's clear that he himself had too much fun putting these sessions together. So, yeah, he may have been a little premature with leaving Miles to his own devices, but that doesn't make him a bad mentor. Not in the least.
I mean,
Having
Peter had to
played
work
as him
on
in
his
the
own,
first
so
game,
it makes
we've seen
sense.
his experience as the wall crawler, so what he teaches Miles feels a lot more genuine. I won't try to give too much away for Spider-Man 2, but by then, Miles definitely has the potential to be Peter's successor based on these teachings. And that alone shows how strong Peter's characterization really is in the games. Plus, it's just Nice to see his life actually move forward without making a deal with the devil. But hey, if old Mephisto wants to delete all the MJ stealth sections for this franchise,
That'd be great.
I would be happy to look the other way.
Don't, Josh. Leave it alone. Sorry, I said. Next.
regardless of where you
Star
stand with
Wars.
the Star Wars franchise, if
Vader?
you still stand with it, you notice that a lot of the teachers are too one-sided. It's mostly dark side bad or dark side good. There's hardly ever an in-between. I mean,
It's
they
done-
tried to do one with Luke and Last Jedi, and the
Wah,
less
wah.
said about that movie, the better. However, if you want a Star Wars story that really puts both the light and dark side
Outcast?
in a neutral
Where's this gone?
perspective, just look at Kreia from Knights of the Old Republic 2. Set 5 years after the original KOTOR, you play as the Exile, a former Jedi Knight kicked out of the Order on a mission to find any remaining Jedi Masters and put an end to the Sith. Among the members is a cranky old bat named Kreia, who takes it upon herself
Kreia?
to be your mentor. You're probably expecting
Wonder why
more
we were
lectures
exiled.
about the dark and light side of the Force, but no. She focuses on you and your growth as a person. She doesn't preach about right or wrong. She's more interested in how someone grows from experiences, enabling them to choose what they do with their lives instead of being basically Jedi child warriors or groomed to the dark side. All the while, she seems to genuinely care about you, but naturally, there's a catch. Over time, we learn quite a bit about Kreia, like how she was a part of the Jedi Council, but they booted her out thinking her teachings had a hand in creating Darth Revan, the true identity of the last KOTOR protagonist. Then she turned to the other side of the spectrum and fashioned herself a new name, Darth Treya. She buddied up with 2 other Sith
boy.
Lords, but they were rotten to the core, so they ditched her
Out you
too.
go.
But wait, what's her real endgame?
Because I hate the Force. I hate that it seems to have a will, that it would control us to achieve some measure of balance when
boy.
countless lives are lost.
Yeesh. Listen to the venom in her voice when she says that. So all along, her ultimate mission was to take down the Force itself. Give people a chance to build their own strength and put an end to the squabbles between the light and dark side. And she used you to further her goal. Was her goal underhanded? Yes. Is she an extremist and a hypocrite? Oh, heck yeah, especially since she actively uses the Force. But at the same time, whether you follow Kreia's perspective on the Force or not, she didn't teach the Exile all of this out of malice for them. She genuinely cared and took the time to raise them to follow their own choices instead of some predetermined fate.
I'm using war as a business to get elected. So I can end war as a business.
Gosh,
That's
just
one way.
something about these charismatic use the system to destroy the system types. It's starting to become a trope, and we have her to thank for starting it. In the end, when
True.
you inevitably had to take her down, she ain't even mad, because you did it your way. Her moral ambiguity and genuine attempt at
True.
teaching definitely make her one of the most intriguing figures in the Star Wars franchise. Also, the fact that she had the stones to call out the Jedi's flaws kind of makes it understandable why good people would become Sith because of her. Now, if only the movies would copy the game's homework, except, make it good.
Yeah, has a point. Sometimes I feel like there should be more talk about why there has to be a balance in the Force. Like, there's so much war going on in Star Wars, which I know it's in the name, but sheesh. At this point, shouldn't the Sith and the Jedi just get along at this point? Like, come on. Yeesh. Just wonder sometimes, Anyway, we're down to the final 3, so let's see the top mentors.
In media, it's common for a mentor to be shown as aloof, a light on the hill, something distant for their pupil to chase. This leads to many mentors having a professional, if not even chilly, relationship with their pupils. However, not all mentors
Anderson.
are like this. Enter one Captain David Anderson. We first meet him during the shakedown run of the Normandy, and he quickly takes Shepard under his wing. When things take a turn for the worse on Eden Prime, Anderson is the first one there to speak up on Shepard's behalf. He defends Shepard from those who would see their path cut short. Anderson's knowledge of how the galaxy works that he imparts to Shepard and by extension the player helps us navigate what
mean, he
would
was
otherwise
supposed to be
be
a spectacle
confusing
for us,
and
so it
frightening.
makes sense.
In a game trilogy all about choices you make, Anderson's words of wisdom can have a huge impact. Throughout the trilogy, Anderson is there for Shepard, a rock of support and camaraderie that is absolutely invaluable. Anderson is even willing to go so far as to defy direct orders to help Shepard in their mission. When the Normandy is locked up and Shepard is ordered to stand down, Anderson helps free the Normandy and get Shepard to Eos. This unwavering faith in Shepard, in their skills and choices, keeps you afloat in even the darkest of times. It's fitting that, in the end, the one who's done so much for Shepard is the one still by their side. Two war-weary soldiers finally finding their rest. We salute you, Captain Anderson, for all that you've done for us and for the galaxy as a whole.
Amen. Number 2. Appreciate.
Live Alive is a really theatrical
Uranus?
game if you think about it. With all the different styles and tones of each story, it really seems like it'd be quantity over
the original
quality,
Shifu.
but surprisingly, that's not the case. The story pulls off light-hearted, epic, and somber tones between each story tremendously well, and leaves us with a lot of memorable characters to look back to. Among the game's best comes from the Imperial
Here
China
we go.
story. High in the mountains is where the Earthen Heart Shifu resides. He spends day after day sharpening his kung fu mastery, aiming to soon pass them to a worthy student. Or perhaps 3.
There's 3 of us, there's 3 of us. Look closely, you will see.
The
How
Shifu
long?
finds
I
a
don't know.
gluttonous young man, a short-tempered lady, and a fragile underdog, all of whom show the potential to preserve his legacy for another generation. He spends day after day training with them, and the more time they do so, they too learn a sizable catalog of Shifu's signature moves. Sadly, as fate has it, some students had to take the lesson to the grave as Oldie Li's men got to them, save for Shifu's best. It's at this moment that Shifu teaches the surviving student his greatest technique, in hopes they would preserve it while he goes up to the villain's lair and offers his serving of divine punishment. But then his student comes along and they both work together to finally topple the prideful kung fu criminal from his throne. What puts the Shifu higher than most mentors is that you're not just training with the mentor, you're playing as the mentor. Given that he's the protagonist of this chapter, we get to experience a whole story of him spending time with his proteges. Since they're beginners, it feels like we, the player, are learning alongside them as if we're a pupil as well. The mentor himself has his own lessons to learn as well. He's not just a fully stoic teacher, he too feels grief and a desperate need to protect his remaining student. In return, his students assure him that all the lessons he taught them were worth it and helped him pull through to pay them back in faith. All 3 students come from different backgrounds with different personalities and ambitions, yet they all still held the Shifu's lessons in equally high regard, vowing to honor what he left behind to protect and inspire future generations. Now that is how you build a mentor with emotional and inspirational impact. It's just that number 1 does all that just a little bit better.
Oh, this I got a year. First time I ever mentions.
0, Mega Man X. He was created to destroy X, but ended up being the mentor he needed and a major breakout star. Tung Fu Ru, Fatal Fury. Trained and raised 6 proteges, only 1 turned out to be evil, and the rest became heroes. Doc Lewis, Punch-Out. Yeah, putting a 17-year-old in the ring of heavy hitters seems a bit sus, but Doc clearly knows his stuff, and results speak for themselves.
True.
Kukui, Pokemon Sun and Moon. This man lets his Pokemon beat on him just for science.
Wow.
If that's not a great teacher, I don't know what is. Lee,
He's
The
tough.
Walking Dead. While he only lasted 1 season, his wisdom and knowledge helped Clementine survive and thrive for 3.5. Season 3 was weird. Goldion / Bloodus, Disgaea 5. Mentor to both the hero and the villain. Kratos, God of War 4. He's not the most fatherly, but he does everything he can
tries
to
his best.
protect his boy. Solid
Boy.
Snake, Metal Gear.
I'll stop.
In a long line of bad mentors, Snake was the perfect person to swoop in and show Raiden what being a soldier was all about, even though he ended up becoming a ninja. Oh, speaking of...
Alright, let's see number 1.
What makes a good soldier? Is it discipline, integrity, loyalty, or courage? Perhaps experience or skill?
Never
Is it
know.
a strong will or an immovable spirit? Or is it the willingness to sacrifice everything you have for your
Big boss?
country? Questions like these are something that have always echoed throughout the Metal Gear series, with many characters having different answers and understanding of the questions entirely. But the one who has the most profound answer is the mentor of Big Boss, the boss. Yeah, from here on I'll just call Big Boss Snake. Metal Gear's confusing enough.
Yeah.
The Boss was the mentor and mother figure to Snake back when she was doing work during the Cold War. Having worked as her disciple for 10 years, they created a form of CQC, their specialized close quarters combat system. The two separated when Boss was chosen to become a candidate for space travel and met up again in 1964 during the Virtuous mission, acting as Snake's logistical support. However, the Boss had to pretend she defected to the Soviet Union to gain the trust of Colonel Volgin. But when Volgin launched a nuke the Boss gave him at his fellow Soviets, the US and USSR agreed to blame Soviet traitors, the Boss included, as a scapegoat. Snake was redeployed to eliminate Volgin and the Boss, as well as their weapon, the Shagawad. The Boss is fully aware of the US's intentions and was willing to give her life to avoid nuclear war. She subtly guided Snake in his mission, enabling him to defeat members of her Cobra unit, destroy the Shagawad, and even kill Volgin. In the end, once Snake encounters the Boss for the final time, the Boss tells Snake of everything she did for the US. Despite being a loyal soldier, her space exploits were declassified, her lover killed by her hand, her son taken from her, and now branded as a traitor. Despite all of this, she still plans to follow through with the mission, hoping Snake could end her suffering or she continues her new path. Snake was successful in killing his mentor, but her legacy continued within Snake and the early founding of the Patriots. Even after becoming Big Boss, Snake never really understood what the Boss was trying to do by sacrificing herself in such a way. He pondered on these revelations throughout Peace Walker and Phantom Pain, just trying to understand what she wanted. He even almost replicated her actions through Solid Snake by making him the next hero. There were times that his belief in her faltered when the Metal Gear Peace Walker decided to disengage from combat. Since the AI running it was based on the Boss, he saw it as her dropping her gun in a sense, something you should never do as a soldier. It wasn't until the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 that he finally understood the Boss's final lesson. In his final death, he realized the goal wasn't to change the world, but to leave it as it is, by respecting the will of others and believing in one's own. Many mentors have made a name for themselves in the world of gaming, but what the Boss does goes beyond that. Her ideals and motivations led to the conflicts and actions of an entire franchise. Everything that happens in Metal Gear can result from someone connected to or affected by her. I'm sad that Metal Gear hasn't continued since Kojima yet, but maybe with the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, we could see her patriotism one last time. Or they could mess it up like the Master Collection and trust Konami as far as I can throw them. Oof. I'm the Fiery Joker, and I hope this list reminds you of some of the mentors in your life. And I hope they were as great, or even better, than those here.
Cut!
Honestly, that makes sense. With the Boss, like, she knew what was signing up for, so... And knowing that, you know, it was to help, like, who she felt was innocent, makes sense. Honestly, I don't know if I would have done what I did, but... Sheesh. Sometimes, gotta keep the world as is. You know, it's the world you make it. You can't change it. Anyway, well, let me know what you guys think of this video. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, adios.